use algebra to solve. Okay? This question does not say prove. It says solve. That's very important. Now you can work on both sides of the equation. If I was solving A, and we're going to look at this more in depth later, but one of the things we've noticed so far is when solving an equation, it's hard to solve when you have two different trig functions. If you can rewrite this with only one trig function, then maybe you'll be able to solve it using previous things that you've had. So first of all, I have two different trig functions, but I hope you can see in this one that I can change cosecant to 1 over sine. And here's the first thing that your mind might play tricks on you when you're doing this on your own, so I'll introduce it that way. Okay? Some of you will write one of these two options when writing 2 cosecant x. Some of you will write 1 over 2 sine x. Some of you will write 2 over sine x. Which one is right? Which one would you do? Because the reciprocal of cosecant is 1 over sine. Ask yourself which one you would do if you had a gut feeling right now, because whichever your gut feeling right now, no matter what, if I tell you the right answer right now, you will still go with your gut feeling 3 days from now on a quiz. So what would you do? Make that decision, because it's the same one you would probably do on the quiz. And if you chose the wrong one, you would want to know why. Okay, the right one is 2 over sine x. Okay? So if you chose the wrong one, you want to know why, because you don't want to make that mistake on the test. Well, why is it? Again, it's fraction rules. If I did one extra step in here, would you agree that cosecant is 1 over sine? So 2 times cosecant is 2 times 1 over sine. How do you multiply fractions? Well, this 2 is 2 over 1. Multiply your numerators. That's why the 2 stays in your numerator, not down in the denominator. That's fine. If you want to show that extra step, right, until you get to a point where you're like able to do that in your head, that's fine. Especially because you're like, ooh, I made that mistake in my head. I can see myself accidentally bringing that 2 down to the bottom. Maybe I want to show a little bit more work. Okay. So now we get this equation, and we have sine, okay? But you have solved, if I had 2x equals 3 plus 1 over x, instead of sine, I just put x. If I imagine that, have I solved those equations before? Yes. That's a rational equation. How do we solve rational equations? We solve rational equations by getting rid of the fraction. How would you get rid of the x in the denominator? When you did these questions, you would have multiplied everything by x. So in this question, I'm going to multiply everything by sine so that this simplifies. And I get 2 sine squared x equals 3 sine x plus 2. And now my rational equation has turned into a quadratic equation. So then you have to go back in your memory and say, well, how do I solve quadratic equations? I make one side equal to 0 and either factor, or I use my quadratic formula. So I would get 2 sine squared x, move the 3 sine x over, move the 2 over to the other side. This one nicely factors 2 sine x and sine x. 2 and 1. Outside would be negative, inside positive. And we get sine x equals negative 1/2 and sine x equals 2. This would be non-calculator. On this side, it's not possible because sine x can't be bigger than 1. And on this side, when is sine equal to 1/2? pi over 6 family. Sign is negative, so we're going to have to say our pi over 6 family members in quadrant 3 and quadrant 4. We think we're done, but we should always check the domain once we've answered everything. It says between 0 and 2 pi, so we are done. We don't have to change our answer or add 2k pi for a general solution. I'll do part B after lunch, but I'll give you question 10 already if you want to try one.